Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my channel, My Doctor Guru. Today, we are going to discuss a very interesting and practical topic of neonatal hypoglycemia and its GIR infusion. We are not going to discuss the definition, causes, and various modalities of treatment of glucose infusion. We are just mentioning that hypoglycemia in neonates is a frequently encountered problem in our NICU. Almost every resident will face this problem one time or the other in a week, and the treatment includes glucose infusion universally with or without additional drugs. So glucose infusion remains the cornerstone of management of neonatal hypoglycemia. So any baby who is affected with hypoglycemia will have to be put on a glucose infusion. And how do we do that? We usually calculate the glucose infusion required and then infuse it into a peripheral line or a central line, and then maintain the blood glucose. The process is very tedious. It involves a series of calculations in which we decide the percentage of dextrose, the glucose infusion rate, which we also called as GIR, which is in mg per kg per minute. So this glucose infusion is actually arbitrarily started, say for example 6, and if the glucose is not maintained at 6 mg per kg per minute, it is hiked to 8, then to 10, then to 12, and so on. In case if the glucose gets controlled and there is a subsequent hyperglycemic readings satisfactorily, then we usually tend to come back from the original value to a 2 mg per kg per minute lesser value. So in prescription, we usually tend to give a mixture solution. Say for example, mix 15 ml of 10% dextrose and 25 ml of 25% dextrose, and run this solution at the rate of 6 ml per hour. So this is how a general prescription for glucose infusion will be. And in the bracket, we usually write this corresponds to GIR of 8 mg per kg per minute, right? But arriving at these numbers involves a lot of complex calculations, and there are chances of errors in the manual calculation. It's time consuming and stressful, and especially when you are in a busy work environment, you are stressed with multiple works, these calculations really take the toll out of you. So getting a glucose infusion right and then frequently monitoring it and changing it is a tiresome process for any resident in an ICU, for which some apps and softwares are being designed. They generate prescriptions like we discussed, like say mixing of X volume of 10% dextrose and Y volume of 25% dextrose to give a GIR of say 8 mg per kg per minute. And then you can directly print this prescription and then give it to the patient. But still, in this has some disadvantage. Some of them are paid, and the mixing needs to be done between the two dextrose solutions. So that's the disadvantage. Why it's a disadvantage? When we are mixing two dextrose solutions into one syringe before infusion, there is high chance of infection that is being transmitted. So this is a source of hospital acquired sepsis, which we need to be careful. No matter how much aseptic precautions we do take, the maximum number of interventions due to repeated changing of glucose infusions actually tend to increase the risk of sepsis. And if at all you need to change glucose infusions very frequently, this will be the scenario in your NICU, wherein there will be a kind of argument or fight in between the resident doctors and nurses. Especially suppose for example you at time equal to 0, you check sugar, it is less, you start GIR at 6 mg per kg per minute, and the nurse agrees to you and starts GIR at 6 based on your prescription. Subsequently, after 30 to 40 minutes, you recheck the sugar, it is still low. Then you ask her to change at 8 mg per kg per minute. Then subsequently, you recheck the sugar, again it is still low, then you go to 10 mg per kg per minute. So this frequent changing of dextrose solutions in a busy NICU is not practical, and also it is very highly risky for introduction of hospital acquired sepsis. So in order to avoid all these problems, what I did in my NICU is I generated an Excel sheet using a very simple arithmetic algorithm. And if you are good in your math, basic math, you can also do this Excel sheet on your own. If not, it's available for free download in our website. You can have a look. So what basically we need to do in this is we need to calculate a fluid rate in ml per hour and the desired GIR you want to give to your patient. So let's assume we have a 3 kilo baby whose fluid requirement for the day is 60 ml per kg per day. So the fluid rate will come for this baby into 7.5 ml per hour. So 7.5 ml per hour is the total infusion rate which the baby will be receiving. What we do, we usually split the required dextrose into two solutions. One say 5% or 10% dextrose, the other one 25% dextrose. Then we set a separate infusion rate for each of them and then combine them in a three-way extension before infusing into the baby. So whatever goes into the baby is what we desire the GIR. So here is a look at the Excel sheet. Let's have a look at the Excel sheet. So this is the Excel sheet wherein as we calculated herein we enter the body weight, and as we calculated the 7.5 ml per hour is the infusion. Suppose you want to generate a GIR desired of 6, then you need to infuse a 10% dextrose at 5 ml per hour and 25% dextrose at 2.5 ml per hour. So how this actually works, suppose you need a lesser GIR than this, what you need to do is you need to reduce the concentration and flow rate of higher dextrose solution, say for example 25% dextrose, and put that volume into the lower dextrose solution so that this total infusion, that is 5 plus 2.5 remains 7.5, which is the desired infusion rate. So let me show an example to you. Suppose I want to reduce the GIR now. What I will do, I will make this 2.5 into 2.0 and I will increase correspondingly this into 5.5. So the total infusion again remains the same as 7.5, which is equal to what you desire. And by doing this pulling of 0.5 to 5.5, the GIR reduced from 6.2 to 5.8 here. So this is a technique. Suppose now the baby's glucose is less and you need to infuse a higher GIR concentrations. So what you need to do, you actually increase the 25% dextrose. Suppose I'll make it 4 and to keep it 7.5, I'll make it 3.5. So by doing this, let's see what GIR it is giving. It's giving 7.5 mg per kg per minute. You want to actually give 7.9 or 8, then you do it like say 4.2 and 3.3. So make sure the 7.5 still remains, and now you are giving around 7.67. So by this trial and error scale, you can actually reach the desired dextrose concentration, and at the same time you also get the concentration of the solution in the next column of the orange color, which in this case it is now presently 18.4. Why this is important? Because we all know up to 12 to 12.5% solution we can infuse in a peripheral line, after which we need to access a central line. I've also made a calculation column for calorie per kg per day, which the baby will be receiving at this particular GIR. So suppose you need to go on higher GIRs like say 10 and 12, then the solution can't be made with 10 and 25D. Then you take help of 50D and you start 50D at 2 ml per hour, and this you reduce to 0 and this you make it to 5.5. Then your GIR is all made. Make sure the volume is correct every time so that you don't make fluid overload or underload. 7.5 ml per hour, and this is making a GIR of 13. So you want to come down on GIR now. So just you have to reduce 1 ml per hour here and increase that 1 ml per hour here. So that will automatically reduce the GIR by 2 mg per kg per minute. Now the GIR is 11.8 or almost 12. So by this sliding and trial and error technique, you can change the GIR. What is the biggest advantage of this technique is using these two things. You just have to alter the fluid rates in the two infusion pumps and they will mix and go inside the baby through the central or peripheral line based on the concentration, after which the repeated sugar checking and mixing and nursing comfort, pardon me for this, nursing comfort and reduced incidence of hospital acquired infection. All these are achieved, and in this the nurses are very happy, the residents are also very happy that they don't have to make multiple calculations every time, and the babies are also happy because they don't have to suffer extra episodes of hospital acquired infection. So this method we have been using for last 6 years in our NICU, and we have found it very useful. Very less incidence of hospital acquired infections. In fact, almost nil, I would say. And our nurses are very happy in using this. So I hope this method will be useful to many of those who suffer those problems which I presented earlier. And if this video is helpful to you, kindly share and spread the knowledge. Thank you.